little straighter.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 10 at 10. We're going to give it a little bit here and let some people jump in before we start.
We were just talking about while we're waiting for people to log in and join us, just all of the rain today that we're having, which is a great reprieve after the 110 heat index that we had over the weekend. So soaking in the cooler temperatures and the precipitation that's coming down, it's definitely needed around here.
Yeah, for sure. I was in Houston over the weekend and it was hot down there, but I think the temps here beat it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm like, it was hot here. It was miserable.
Yeah, that's what I heard. But
my niece or my granddaughter informed me that it was hotter here on Saturday than it was in Death Valley.
Oh, well,
just to give you an indication, it was miserable. It was terrible.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we are going to go ahead and actually get started on the topic because we're pretty excited about this today.
Yeah.
So, I'm Karina. I'm the founder and owner of Community Solutions. Taylor is one of our digital strategists here, and we get the privilege of working together on a couple of accounts, especially some of the ones that really like to challenge us. And one of those that we've been working with, so we've been working with a fairly large employer for quite a while and have had some great success in recruiting and filling a lot of their positions. And one that's really kind of been a conundrum for us, especially here in the Midwest, is finding those candidates that are multilingual, that specifically speak Spanish and English both, and trying to find them in a region that's not really well populated with that demographic, but also then getting them to apply for the positions that were open. And so we, over about the last 9 months, have really been focused on trying to solve that problem for them. And one of the solutions, and I'll let Taylor share like kind of what we were doing, and then one of the solutions that we came up with that we've really been pretty happy with the outcomes of that. So Taylor, tell us a little bit for this account, what we had been doing prior to not just specifically the multilingual, but in general, what we've been doing for recruiting efforts and some of the challenges we've had around that with the multilingual audience.
Yeah, so we started out running a pretty robust digital strategy, running Facebook ads, paid search ads, data-driven programmatic ads, and then YouTube ads. And then from there, we kind of noticed that it was working really well for like your general audience, but it wasn't really working well for the bilingual audience. So we started looking at, some alternative areas, and something that I've done before in the past was Craigslist, which I know is kind of surprising because most people think, oh, that's not really an avenue where, you're going to see success. Most of the time people think of it as a place where someone's selling like an older car or, a couch or something like that. But that's kind of an avenue that I've worked with before for recruitment, and I thought, hey, let's test it out. And that's kind of where we saw some of our success recently.
Yeah.
So,
but one of the challenges with Craigslist as a it's not really an ad platform.
No.
And so it also posed a lot of challenges for us, not only when we presented it to the client, but then also justifying why we were going to go there.
Right. So some of those challenges are, you cannot tailor anything whatsoever. It is just a basic ad. Like it is as basic as you can get. You basically put out your ad information, you put a URL to where someone can apply, and that's as good as you can get. You can't target it. You can't tailor it to any specific needs. Whereas a Facebook ad, you can do that. A Google ad, you can do that. Like the only thing you can do with Craigslist is put like your job title and the area that you are hiring in and the company that is doing the hiring, and that's it. Another challenge with that is the reporting. There is no reporting. You can't see clicks, you can't see impressions, you can't see that click-through rate. And you have to rely on the client you're working with to kind of come back to you and say, this is a success we're seeing using Craigslist. Unfortunately, I don't see it ever changing just because, Craigslist is the way it is. it's been like this for how many years?
Yeah.
They're not going to change. And that's
As much
just,
as we want them to.
right.
We can ask,
Right. That's just the downside
Yeah.
of it. But you know, it does work really well. But it is a lot of manual input. That is another downside of it. Like there is no automation. I'm the one who's putting out those ads, which it's pretty seamless and easy to learn, but it does take some time. Whereas, you know, some of these other platforms, once you put them up, you don't have to constantly, you know, rework them and redo them.
Yeah. But the good news is that even though the platform itself does not provide any sort of tracking
Mhm.
or reporting, like we can't see how many people looked at the ad, we can't see how many people clicked on that post, and you know, then it goes into the ATS system for the
Mhm.
client, and we just have no way to know, like, is it working, is it not working?
Right.
The good news is it's really cost effective. It is super inexpensive
It
to
is.
be posting um, on Craigslist. And I think we started with a $500 trial
Mhm.
budget. Like it really was not a ton of money that we were putting into it. And while initially we really had to rely on the client to be able to give us that information and tell us, hey, we think this is working. We're starting to get people reference it or note it as as the referral source on their applications. Because really at the end of the day, the applications is what mattered. We do track things like impressions and click for most clients and across the board. But at the end of the day, if we're not getting those applications, then it really isn't a valuable placement.
Yeah.
And so we were able to figure out, I say we loosely, it definitely was not me, over the course of the campaign that we could start tracking within GA4
Mhm.
the number of application clicks within that were going into the
Mhm.
applicant tracking system, that ATS system. And so even though we weren't getting any information from the platform, we have been able to start getting really consistent, reliable information through Google Analytics and the codes that we were using for those clicks into the system. And so, I mean, the client has been really happy with it. In 25, they
Yeah.
continued, like we went from beta testing it to full on, we're going to do this as one of our strategic tactics that we're going to do. And so far, year to date in this year, 2025, so if we're looking at January through yesterday, we had over 156 applications for those bilingual ads or those bilingual positions come through specifically Craigslist. And so that is a really solid number for, I think they had like 40 positions open that are kind of rotating through and change from time to time over the course of the year. But it really came down to we had an average cost per application of about $27 through Craigslist. And while that's slightly higher than what kind of call center application numbers are that are ranging, this year between 20 and $25 for the really targeted audience and that hard to reach audience that we're trying to get through this campaign. I think that's a huge success. And all of the feedback that we've gotten from the client perspective, as well as they've been really happy with how it's been going. So it's for us, it was kind of an interesting trial.
For sure.
It was something that we had not done before as Key Media for any sort of recruitment campaign. It is definitely not one that's for everybody.
Yeah. I would recommend it more for your blue collar jobs. I've seen it more successful in that route than white collar jobs for sure. Just because of the audience that's kind of on Craigslist. So I guess personally, I was surprised to see it work as well as it has for the client that we're working with right now. And just another thing to note about, some of the benefits of Craigslist is it does have a high visibility for local markets. So if you do have, some of those jobs in a local market, it does tend to work better than like take Minneapolis, for example. It doesn't work as well in those higher level markets than your local market. So
more larger markets versus smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been interesting. It's a good reason why, we should always be A/B testing. And I think you're really good about making recommendations and trying new things. And we're pretty excited that we're going to now start rolling out some Snap ads for them as well. And I think that's going to work pretty well. So I think, bottom line is always stay curious. Always think about like, hey, is there something we can be doing better? And I'll share with you. And I know Taylor's heard this a million times, but my philosophy on, campaign strategy is it's kind of a 70-20-10 philosophy, right? We should take 70% of our budget, 70% of our plan, and really focus on what we know is working super, super well. Like we know we're getting results here. We should make sure that we're consistent. We don't want to pull away from something we know is working. Take 20% and try to optimize that 10%. What can we doing better? Can we A/B test messages? Can we A/B test targeting? Can we A/B test different publisher placements? Can we A/B test different platforms? Like what can we be doing to improve upon that 70%? Because chances are there's something that we can do. And then take 10% and just try something completely new. Go out of the box, do something, whether you think it's like a slam dunk win or you think it's like Craigslist, like, it might not work, but I think it's worth testing because we've seen it work in other areas. And try it because you might find that little hidden gem that you didn't know was a really good option for that challenge, that problem that we're trying to solve or that outcome that we're trying to achieve.
And honestly, you're never going to know unless you try. So, if you have a new idea, try it.
Yeah.
You never know. It might work.
I would say controlled trials.
Yes,
right?
for sure.
Don't just go crazy. Go into it with intent and, this is what I want to test. This is how I'm going to test this, how I'm going to measure the outcome. But yeah, I mean, for sure, experiment, especially with the technology that we have available today. Anything really is possible. It's just figure out how to get it to do what we want it to do to get those outcomes that we really want to achieve.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's our time for today. That went quick.
It always does.
It always does. Be sure if you have any questions about this, about other things that we're doing or challenges that you're facing, drop a message or say that again, drop a comment or send us a message. How about that? We'll do our best to get back to those as quickly as possible. Thanks for joining us today.